All right, everybody, thank you. We're back to another Liturgy Explained, School of Liturgy with Father Luke and myself. We are, this is our third one. Our first one, we talked about liturgy. If you remember, liturgy is a work of the people. It's a sacrifice that we're all doing on behalf of ourselves and for the whole world. And then last week we talked about worship, right? Liturgy is the formal rite of worship. And worship, why do we worship? Because God is due that. It's an expression of who we are. It expresses the truth of the universe, that we're creatures and that God is God, and it helps us keep centered and focused and ordered. And God is due it. He's owed it. It is right and just because he's given us everything. And there's a desire when we realize that we've been given something to reciprocate, to give ourselves. And that's kind of what worship is. And this week, we're talking about participating in the worship.
Yeah, the way I like to talk about participating in the worship is, for me, one of my biggest pet peeves is people who over-explain rules to games, You know what I'm talking about? Someone over-explains the rules. I'm one of those guys that I just want to, play. Maybe we'll get to know it as we go, and practice rounds, And so I've always been, I want to play. I want to participate. I was recently visiting a family, and they have 5 kids, and Marla is the youngest, and she was watching her brothers and sisters, shoot up these little toys into the sky, and then they would parachute and propeller down, and she kept on saying, I want to try, I want to try, I want to try. And they finally gave it to her, and she got to play. But I think there's something inside of us that wants to participate. We want to be a part of the action. I know for me, Mass, I always saw the priest up there, and I would, kind of just be more of a spectator. I'd just think about other things. I would look around and look what that person's wearing today, or I wonder what school that person goes to. And but for me, I've started to grow in what it means to participate in Mass. Again, as a priest, but for years, just getting involved in my faith and having a greater participation in Mass. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yep, and so I got a little quote from the Second Vatican Council. They came out with this document on the liturgy, which we've been talking about liturgy, and it was sort of seen as, I guess, it's the foundational document for the reform of the liturgy that took place in the Second Vatican Council. You may have heard things about Vatican II, probably untrue, maybe some true, who knows. These documents are very beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
It starts off with this, kind of paragraph 14. It says this: Mother Church earnestly desires that all the faithful, that means you and me, everybody, should be led to that fully conscious and active participation in liturgical celebrations, which is demanded by the very nature of the liturgy. Isn't that interesting? So we should all be led to fully conscious and active participation in the liturgical celebrations, which is demanded by the very nature of the liturgy, which means the nature of the liturgy itself demands that we all participate in this way, fully conscious and active. It says this: such participation by the Christian people as a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a redeemed people, is their right and duty by reason of their baptism. It is your right and duty to be part of this liturgy. Lastly, here it is. In the restoration and promotion of the sacred liturgy, this full and active participation, there's that phrase again, full and active participation by all the people is the aim to be considered before all else. So when they reformed the liturgy, that was the aim above all else, is that we bring people in. The reason for that was because before, and some of our old timers might know, the people would show up to Mass and not pay attention. They didn't know what was going on. It was in Latin. They'd just pray the rosary. They might read a book. And they were there and they were attending, but they weren't actively involved, right? And that's what they're trying to restore, is this idea of us being totally involved. It is the primary and indispensable source from which the faithful are to derive the true Christian spirit. And therefore, pastors of souls must zealously strive to achieve it by means of the necessary instruction and other pastor work. So that's what we're doing. We're doing what the Second Vatican Council said we need to do. We have to zealously try to instruct you about the liturgy so that you can fully, actively, and consciously participate in it.
Yeah, and one of those ways that we talked about, is when you prepare to come to Mass. Like, what are some ways that you can, even before you enter the building, what are the ways that you can prepare for Mass? Something that I see families do is they'll read the Sunday readings at some point during the week. And so they'll familiarize themselves with the readings. before they come to Mass. Some people will even put, Christian music, hymns in their cars as they're coming to try to set the atmosphere. And mercy, mercy, mercy for, all our families. We do the best we can
Right.
with everybody. So
Some people are late, some people there's traffic, there's kids, we understand all that. But whatever you can do to it's like a mindset. Like, I'm going to worship. Like, when we have this understanding that we're coming here to give something, we're coming here to pray, we're coming here to worship, it'll help change our mindset as we approach Mass. For me as a priest, I have to do that. And often I confess on daily Mass, I'm literally running from a meeting to the sacristy, getting vested, bam, I'm going into Mass. That's not ideal. That's not good for me or anybody. I'm trying to get better with that. Sundays, try to get myself ready, try to prepare throughout the week, try to really get into it and get myself ready. Other sacraments, the same thing. Try to get myself ready for what I'm about to participate in. So it's not just a ritual, it's not just spoken words, but my mind is there.
yeah, we did the same thing in high school. I mean, before a basketball game, how do you get yourself ready for the game? I mean, there's certain music you listen to,
Right.
and it can be really powerful to help you get pumped up for what you're about to do. Yeah.
Another way you can fully active consciously participate is paying attention to what we're doing at Mass. That's not just stuff we're saying. So I remember when I was in school, we do the Pledge of Allegiance over and over and over again, and I never really paid attention to what I was saying. And I remember at one time when I was at Trinity Catholic School, I used to go out in the morning and do the prayer with the kids in the morning, and we would do the Our Father and the Pledge and all that stuff. Actually, we wouldn't do the Our Father, we just do the Pledge. And so I got everybody's attention, and I turned to the flag and I said, "Eyes on the flag, hands on your hearts." And everybody did it, and I went, "Our Father, who art in heaven." And everybody just joined me, and then we finished it, and I realized, okay, it was just, I'm just used to saying Our Father a lot. I've had people, I've had people in confession, I'm like, act of contrition, and they're like, "Bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts." So again, that's gonna happen to all of us. I don't want you to feel guilty, but how can we actively think about what I'm saying, what I'm doing, that's like, okay, this means something,
And going back to music, I shared a story a couple of weeks ago about singing at Mass. For me, I'm not a big singer. I joke that, I'm probably America's most untalented singer. I'm very self-conscious about it. But I sing not because I necessarily like church music or because I like the way or even the song lyrics. Maybe that's not how I would say it. But I sing because it's for God. It's almost like when you're singing, something for somebody. You're singing for them. So that the way I've been approaching music is like that. And sometimes I've heard priests joke about this, that we know that you know how to sing. And the reason we know that you know how to sing is every year around July 4th, the musicians, they always pick, God Bless America. And then just the church erupts and everyone's singing. So, the conclusion that we draw from that is like, I think everybody knows how to sing, but we usually just sing what we want to sing, and I think the shift for me is, the way I can fully consciously actively participate is, by actually singing. And I'm not singing because I like the song, but I'm singing as an act of worship.
It's a cool feeling for a priest when everybody's singing. I mean, it sounds awesome. And you all know what I'm talking about. When you walk into a church and everybody's like singing, it just sounds amazing.
It sounds like it should sound.
Right. Can you imagine like have you ever been to Joe Campbell? If no one was doing the war chant, like one of the coolest things, right, is that everybody's clapping to the same thing. Chanting FOLRIDA, right? Like if only like 10 of us were doing that, it would be lame, right? Like what makes it powerful and exciting is like all these people at once, bam, we're all doing this thing that's like bigger than us. And that's what liturgy is. I used to say that the beginning of the football game is like a secular liturgy. It's like the same thing we do every single game. The band comes out, the same songs, the same march, Chief Osceola comes out. Like I could recite it all. I've been to it so many times. And it's like we're all participating in this thing that's kind of bigger than us. It's kind of a secular liturgy, right? There's no sacrifice happening. Sure. But that's the idea. So sing. Don't be afraid to sing. You don't have to be a good singer. Don't sing too loud then. Just sing. But I think it's awesome. Mass parts too, I know we're doing the Latin ones. Find them in the book. We'll go back to the other ones after Easter. Find those. We have the little cards. I mean, use those if you want to help you. But I think that helps you know what you're doing. So.
Yeah. And then obviously, probably the most tangible way we can participate is in our reception of communion of the Eucharist, and just to approach the bread of life with reverence. That's one of the most obvious ways in which we can participate is, making sure our souls are clean and ready to receive God throughout the week. And then when we receive him, just to commune with God. Pray after communion when you go to your pews. I know for years I would just kind of look around, but to take that moment to pray. After the communion, we take a moment of silence, usually in between the hymns. And that's precisely not because the priest is just kind of waiting and keeping us here, but it's just for a moment that a lot of people make what we call an act of thanksgiving, and they do that in their prayers after communion. So we like to take that moment of silence, which again is so rare and it's so precious in our society. So it's nice to have that moment together as a community.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah, getting ready for the Eucharist, big. Just preparing our heart for what are we doing here? We're receiving what we believe as Catholics, and we're going to get into more of the Eucharist down the road with these talks. But we're receiving God. We're receiving Jesus, body, blood, soul, and divinity in the Eucharist. We're eating him. He's coming into our heart. We're becoming one with him. It's something that I have the privilege to do every day. That it's hard for. I have to work to keep that conscious participation. Right. It's a big thing that's happening here. And when you come here, just to open, like, wow, okay, Lord, you're coming into my heart. Like, help me open up. Try to be aware of what's about to happen. It's gonna make your experience at Mass a lot more enriched if we're fully active, conscious participation, and it'll affect everybody else as well. Anything else?
I think that's good for now.
That's pretty good. That's not bad. Totally did that in one take. Want you to know, not bragging, maybe a little bit, but that's it. And hope this is helpful. And we'll see you this weekend. God bless you.
God bless you.